Hey guys, welcome to this video. We're going to have a little bit of story time here, and this is the lion, the donkey, and the fox, and it may be a slightly different version than what we grew up hearing. So in this version, and don't ask why, they're just doing it. You have a lion, a donkey, and a fox, and they're out hunting rabbits. And at the end of the day, there's this enormous pile of rabbits. And the lion turns to the donkey and he says, "Look, I'm going over there for a while. While I'm gone, you divide up the rabbits equally among us." Donkey says, "Okay." So the lion leaves, comes back, and there are three equal piles of rabbits. And the lion looks at the piles, looks at the donkey, looks at the piles, looks at the donkey, slashes the donkey's throat open, kills him, and throws his carcass out. And he turns to the fox. He says, "Mr. Fox, I'm going to go out there for a while. I'll be back. While I'm gone, divide the rabbits equally between us." Okay. So the lion leaves. He comes back. There's one enormous pile of rabbits. And then there's a scrawny little skinny single rabbit in front of the fox. And the lion looks at the piles and looks at the fox and looks at the piles, looks at the fox, says, "Mr. Fox, how did you get so good at math?" And the fox says, "The donkey taught me." Okay. So look, we can take the experiences, positive or negative, and we can learn from them. So what does that have to do with us? Well, let's think about, we're in a recession now. I don't care what the economists say. Some say we're in one now, we're going in one. No, we're in a recession now. What can we learn from the last recession? Now, I'll say this, we have to be careful that we don't fall victim to, some people call it fighting the last war. So in other words, we go, well, this is how it happened back then, so it must be identical. No, that's a mistake. Things are never identical, but like that fox, we can learn some lessons from the past, and we can see whether we were personally affected or somebody else was affected. We can learn lessons from that. So let's just think through this and say, okay, what about mortgage companies? How will they treat us? What should we expect? Well, there's going to be a lot of people losing their jobs, already lost their jobs. There's going to be a lot of financial hardship. So people will not be able to pay their mortgage. Now maybe they do the CARES Act, they get the forbearance, but maybe they don't qualify for that. And they're really struggling. And so they're going to their mortgage company over and over, "Please help me, please help me." Well, think about this. Wait, the mortgage companies, they don't actually own the loan. Okay, they're just the servicer at 99% of the time. So they don't make any money by doing a loan modification for you. It's not like it's really their loan and, we've got to get this modification in. This is not a moneymaker for them. And so are they going to staff really high, pay all this overtime, training, all that, so that they can help you lower your payment so the mortgage company makes less money? No. So they're going to have poor staffing. And look, some of the turnover in these places, let's say you have 1,000 people that are there on January 1st, 500, 600, 700 of them are gone by the end of the year. They have like 50, 60, 70% turnover every single year. So the people you talk to are not very well trained. A lot of times they're in a foreign country, barely speak English. You're calling back the next day and you got to tell your whole story again. And all they can do is just read a script. Okay. You ever called Aqua? All they can do is read a script. So it's going to be terrible service. Okay. So we can't be surprised by that. We know that's what they did. So we have to fight back against that. What about debt collectors? Well, let's see. I've got my house payment. I got this credit card, that credit card, some medical debt, but my job has been cut. My hours have been cut. What do I do with limited money? Because I can't pay everything. Well, I hope I pay my house before I pay my credit cards. Okay. Well, now those debt collectors get the credit cards. They get the medical debt. What are they going to do? Well, when there was lots of money around, they didn't have to try very hard. They could get money. But now money's really tight. So they've got to be harassing. This is what they say in their mind. We have to be harassing. This is what they did in last recession. Harassing, file lots of lawsuits, even though the lawsuits may be completely bogus. Bogus credit report, anything to get your attention so that you will go, well, I was going to give this money over here, but I'll give it to this debt collector because they're calling my boss. What if I lose my job? They're calling my ex-mother-in-law. I can't deal with this. Well, let's think about credit bureaus. What will they do? Well, look, when times are great, There's lots of money. Maybe we've got a little thing on our credit report, but it doesn't really hurt us. But now when we desperately need that credit, now we're going to go dispute. And when you add on all these collection accounts that are going to be added to the credit bureaus, credit reports, people are going to start disputing a lot. Now, again, think about this. How does the credit bureau make money? Okay. Well, maybe you do a monitoring service, okay, but at least until about April 2021, you can get your free credit report from annualcreditreport.com once a week, okay? So why pay Experian, monthly amount of money? So you're not their customer. They don't make money on you. They make money by charging Bank of America and Ocwen and Wells Fargo and all these debt collectors to be able to have a report on you. And that's where they make their money. So do they make their money by correcting a credit report? No, it's just an expense. All that is just money going out the window. Because think about it this way. Could the credit bureaus make your credit report almost 100% perfect without you ever having to dispute? Sure they could. And their obligation is maximum possible accuracy, okay, within reason. All right. Now they say, well, within reason means we're going to do it as cheaply as possible. So there are people in Chile, there are people in India, there are people in other countries where the money paid is so small. And these credit bureaus are not sending all the work out to these foreign countries because they're better workers than we are in the U.S. They're doing it because they're a whole lot cheaper. Because the dispute process, all that is a money drain for the credit bureau. They hate it. That's why they come up with all this bogus stuff. They'll say, well, we think you're using a credit repair. We're not going to investigate it. All this nonsense. We'll talk about it in other videos. But my point is, they're not going to put any resources into doing proper disputes, particularly as money is getting tighter and tighter. Because some of the credit bureaus' customers are going to say, look, we can't spend $100,000 a month or $500,000 a month on you. So it's less revenue for the credit bureaus. People, I'm talking about consumers that are spending 20, 30, 40 bucks a month on credit monitoring with the credit bureaus. A good percentage of those are going to say, hey, I can't do that. I'll just go to annualcreditreport.com for free. So the credit bureaus have this pressure, and they're going to lower their standards, lower their number of employees, independent contractors. So we just have to expect that. Well, what about in the personal injury context? So again, going back to the last recession, here's what happens. Insurance companies, and this is a little bit of an oversimplification, but it's true enough for our person. They take in the revenues, they get that money, and then they invest the money, what they don't spend on salaries and stuff like that. They invest it. They get a return on that investment. So their money coming in is here. They want their money going out in claims to be less than that. Then they make a profit. Nothing wrong with that. But here's the problem. They're always having a sort of a tendency to want to pay out less and less, even if it's a required payment. But what about when the markets start crashing and their investment revenue is really going down? Well, now they really feel compelled to pay out less. So they go, you know what? I know your claim is worth $20,000 for that car wreck. We're going to offer you 12. Well, why would you take it? Because you may be desperate. You're like, I got to get that money. I got to take it. Well, we say, well, maybe that's not a big deal. Well, let's think bigger cases. So there's a case that we look at. We say that has $1 million value, and the insurance company says we'll offer you $650. Well, that's still a lot of money. It's not what the case is worth. So what do our clients do with that? Do they say, oh, I need the money, let's take it? Because the insurance company is saying, if you don't take this, we're going to drag this thing out. We're going to delay. That's sort of their mantra, delay and deny. Okay, deny claims, delay paying, delay making decisions to sort of starve you out. Okay, so that's what they do. So we have to recognize that in our personal injury cases. What about with your financial advisor? So you've got a registered investment advisor, you've got a financial broker. They've got you in this really exotic, cool sounding REIT, real estate investment trust, and you own all these shopping centers, or you got a little piece of all these commercial buildings. And some of those are legitimate. I'll tell you what, a lot of those are fraudulent. Okay, it's almost a Ponzi scheme. And so, again, when everything's going up, maybe we don't notice it because overall, particularly for retirees, overall our portfolio is doing great. So it's like, okay, maybe I don't understand this REIT or this variable annuity that my broker put me in. He swore this was like the best thing since sliced bread. But now as the markets start crashing, now it's like, well, wait a minute. What is this chunk of money I've got in this REIT? Or what is this variable annuity? And it looks terrible. And to get out, I lose all this money. And then we start going, well, why did my advisor put me in that? Well, let me tell you why. Your registered investment advisor, we'll do another video on this, but they owe a fiduciary obligation to you, same as a lawyer would. So they've got to act in your best interest. So what they do is they say, well, I'll charge you 1% of your total portfolio. Okay, it sounds reasonable. And that way you can trust everything I advise you to put in. Okay. But then it's like they have on that registered investment hat. They take that off. They put on the broker hat. And they say, well, now I'm acting as your broker. Do this variable annuity. Put $100,000 into it. And I'll get an immediate $10,000 commission on it. Of course, they don't tell you about the commission because you're not thinking commission because they're your registered investment advisor. And so they do all of this. Maybe when the market's going up, we don't really care. But when things start crashing, we go, wait a minute, what is this garbage that my advisor put me in? And then you start questioning it, and they start trying to make it even more confusing. Remember this, Bernie Madoff did not take all that money from all these super wealthy people because he clearly explained what he was doing. No, he made it very complicated and mysterious and, don't ask questions. Look, this wealthy guy over here is using it, so you should trust me. And so that's what advisors will do because they don't want you to make a claim because you can recover your losses if you make a claim. It's an arbitration claim under what's called FINRA, but you can do that. So my point is not to necessarily get bogged down in all these details, but to say, understand from the last recession, companies are going to be more likely to cheat you, more likely to break the law. And when you sue them, they're going to be more inclined to not want to pay you money. So what do? Do you just give up? No, we don't give up. We go after them. We understand what they're going to do. We're prepared for what they're going to do. And we make it painful for them. We want that insurance company, that mortgage company, that credit bureau, that financial broker, whoever it might be to say, I really hate to settle this case and pay the money that has to be paid, but it will be more painful if I don't do that. Okay? We can't expect these guys who are breaking the law. Remember, they're breaking the law. We cannot expect them to do the right thing. Instead, we have to make the pain of not working this out with us greater than the pleasure they have in keeping that money. Okay? So if they owe us $100,000 and they say, but I only want to pay you $60,000, we got to say, no, let me explain why it's in your best interest to pay the $100,000 because it's going to cost you a whole lot more if you don't do that. We have to explain that to them. And we can get mad. We can say this is unfair. All the economic pressure from the recession is making these bad guys be even worse. And then they're difficult when we sue them. That doesn't do us any good. Instead, recognize it. Okay? Just like the fox said, the donkey taught me that. Well, hey, the last recession taught me this. Now let me go forward and do the right thing and take care of business and get whatever settlement I'm entitled to, get whatever verdict I'm entitled to, get whatever arbitration award I'm entitled to. Don't let these guys off the hook. So be prepared. Don't let that discourage you. Let that just be something where you say, I know what I'm facing. I'm going in with my eyes wide open, and now I'm going to take the right action. So if we can help you in any way, 205-879-2447 or alabamaconsumer.com. And my name is John Watts. I'm a lawyer in Alabama. Thanks for watching this video and appreciate you sticking around, and I'll catch you in the next one. All right, bye-bye.